Right, we'll be talking about bone cancers. I'm sure you know, but just to remind you that cancers have different names depending on where they originate from, and also the severity. So benign tumors generally end in oma. So for example, an osteoma is a benign tumor that has arisen from the bone. And then malignant tumors will take the name of kind of where they come from. So for example, if they originate from connective tissue or bone, they would be called sarcomas, for example, an osteosarcoma. And if they arise from epithelial tissue, so for example, breast tissue, that would be called carcinoma. For bones, most cancers that are found in bones are actually not from the bone itself. They even metastasize from other places, like for example, usually breast tissue, for example, and they spread to the bone. However, bone cancers in this video will be the primary kind of bone cancers. And your biggest, in case I forget, your biggest primary bone cancer is called osteosarcoma, and even that is quite rare. Just to kind of look at bone anatomy very, very briefly, just so we're on the same page. At the end of a bone, we kind of have cartilage, and in long bones, this articulates with joints, so rubs against joints. Then we have our epiphysis, which is our growth plate. This fuses at puberty because of estrogen. And then in the middle, you have your spongy bone, which is kind of your main trabecular bone. So your trabecular bone is the bit with kind of holes in it, and those holes have bone marrow. Yeah, and that's our bone shaft. Okay, cool. Just remember that your growth plates are at the end, and that your cartilage is even more at the end of that. Okay, so as I mentioned, there's three types of bone cancer. The first one is called a giant cell bone tumor. So what is a giant cell? It's a type of osteoclast. Wait a minute, what's an osteoclast? What's an osteoclast? So clast, I remember like C for cutting. So the osteoclasts are the like your macrophages and your stuff that kind of erodes bone. And then your osteoblast, B for building, they're your stuff that deposit bone and build new bone. So giant cells are a type of osteoclast. They're basically the guys that erode your bone. And this you get tumors when these guys are overactive. So you can see three X-rays here. This is a femur, this is a femur, this is a hand. And so obviously on an X-ray, white means dense, meaning bone. Black is less dense, basically meaning the bone has been replaced with soft tissue, essentially. So that shows excessive osteoclast activity. You can see, what features can you see here? Well, they're basically all at the end of bones, essentially. So they're all kind of towards the epiphysis of bones, the growth plate side of things. And they all kind of have, maybe this one not so much, but this one definitely, and this one definitely as well. They all have these nice outlines, very regular outlines that you can kind of draw a circle around, even this one too. And generally, as a rough rule of thumb, things that are more smooth are benign. This is obviously very rough. And things that are usually more aggressive looking tend to be malignant. So giant cell bone tumors, they're benign often. They have a well-defined outline. They show soft tissue. They tend to be around the epiphysis. And this basically can put pressure on the bone due to the tumor, which can erode the bone. This is the histology. So this is just your normal bone. And then here, you get your giant cells, literally because they're giant. But you're kind of telltale feature, so you can have these and they can have loads of nuclei in them. Usually they shouldn't have that many nuclei, but you can see this one here is another one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This has 7 nuclei, this has loads in it as well. The other cells have regular nuclei, so you can't really see any like strange nuclei in these normal kind of bone cells. And nucleoli, which are kind of like your little inclusion bodies within your nucleus, are not a feature here. So those are your 3 histological features that you have to know about. Our next type of cancer is a malignant cancer, so that's sarcoma, if you remember, called a chondrosarcoma. Now, chondrosarcomas arise in the cartilage, so that's why I kind of went over all that stuff in the beginning. I remember C, chondrosarcoma, C for cartilage, C for chondrosarcoma. These are malignant, as I said. And here you can see 2 scans. Hopefully you can tell they're different parts of the body. This is a femur? Incorrect. So this is your humerus. This is your arm, that's your shoulder blade here. You can see kind of here, again, you're getting that soft tissue within the bone. You're getting like the bone being eroded, but it doesn't look the same as this. It's much more irregular. And also here, this is kind of in your pelvis or in your sacrum. You can see here as well, this bit here. And typically this is described as a popcorn or a moth-eaten appearance. So I don't know, it looks like basically a moth has kind of come away and nibbled little holes in this bone. So often it's found in long bones in the pelvis, which you can see here. And these, because they're malignant, they invade surrounding tissue. So what is this gruesome picture? This is a rib, just here. And all this here, so remember the cartilage is at the end of the bone, so the cartilage has invaded all this surrounding tissue, and you kind of get that gelatinous kind of nasty picture. This is what it looks like under a microscope. So what are we looking at? It can be quite complex, because histology is basically just various variations of pink, right? But we can see here a lot more white. So what is this white? This is basically your matrix, essentially. So what else can we see? We can see these white blobs here, and there's lots of them. These are called lacunae. Lacunae are basically they're essentially swimming pools. They contain fluid, and within the fluid, they contain these cells called osteocytes. And this indicates that we're looking at cartilage, because these blobs are only found in cartilage. They're not found here. You don't find these blobs with cells in, like here, for example. So this is what normal cartilage looks like here, just for this picture. And hopefully you can see that there are some lacunae here, but they're kind of not that concentrated. Whereas in chondrosarcoma, we've got way too many people in this area. We've got way too many lacunae, basically a lot more cells in the cartilage matrix, which is our telltale sign of chondrosarcoma. We also get, look at this nucleus here, look at this guy here, like they're all crazy, look at that kind of horseshoe shape thing. Whereas here, you might be able to see they're just regular circles. Here, they're all like over the place. So you get pleomorphism, meaning they take up different shapes. And also, you can see here they take up a lot more stain than they do here. So that's called hyperchromasia. So that these things, basically the presence of a large number of cells within the cartilage, and the fact that the nuclei are all over the place, and also they stain deeply, and they spread to local tissue, and the popcorn kind of appearance suggests chondrosarcoma, which is again of your cartilage. Finally, osteosarcoma. This is your most common form of primary bone cancer. So what happens? This osteosarcoma occurs when you have osteoblast activity. Remember, blasts are for building. Basically, you have the guys that make bone, they become hyperactive, and they start growing bone outside of the bone margin, so it kind of presses here. The edge of the bone here is called the periosteum, peri kind of meaning next to. So this is the periosteum, and the osteoblasts are overactive, so they're going to push into it and kind of mineralize the outside of the bone as well. So this is called lamination, and then over time it's going to get worse and worse, and more bone is going to grow on the outside of the bone, and kind of in that pattern, and it's called a sunburst appearance. You need to know this term. So I mentioned it because of excessive osteoblast activities. The osteoblasts lay down something called osteoid, which is excessive. It's basically the precursor to the bone. So osteoblasts put down osteoid, and then that's going to mineralize into this sunburst kind of appearance outside the periosteum. This causes periosteal elevation. So here's basically an X-ray. Here is the normal edge of the bone. This side is more normal, and here is kind of a normal edge of the bone. And then here, can you see? So this big white bit is the edge of the bone, and then this bit here, where this arrow is pointing to, that is periosteal elevation. Your osteoblasts have basically expanded, and have pushed out the border of the bone here. And then we've got our sunburst appearance here. It's kind of hard to see, but there'll be other pictures. You can see it here, definitely. Look at all this like fuzziness here. And between them, you can kind of, between the elevated periosteum and the sunburst appearance, you can kind of draw a triangle. This is called Codman's triangle. If you can see Codman's triangle, it is 100% an osteosarcoma. Again, this is malignant. Okay, again, what are we looking at here? So compared to this and this, you can see there's a lot more kind of space here. This space, this pink bit between your cells, is your osteoid, right? So your osteoid is your matrix. This is all going to become bone later on. So it's going to become bone later on. It's the unmineralized matrix, and it will become mineralized later. Also, if you look carefully, for example, like here, look at that nucleus there, here, we're kind of getting all sorts of funny shapes, weird shapes that don't match each other, so pleomorphism. So in combination, there's no lacunae here. This is all kind of trabecular bone, so this is your normal bone, but you can see the osteoblasts are laying down a lot of osteoid here, which is obviously going to lead to osteosarcoma. Okay, right, that is everything. Learn those. Now it's time for a quiz. So, this is our first case. Just take a look at it, pause it for like 10 seconds, have a think about it, and then, yeah, make a diagnosis. Okay, so what can we see here? We can see cysts here, so this is showing that something is up. What's this? This is our periosteum. Can you see here that periosteal elevation? That's like really, so you've got periosteal elevation, and this is your classic sunburst appearance. So you can see your Codman's triangle here. If you draw a triangle there, between the periosteal elevation, all the way up here, and along this border, all this here is excessive bone growth, and on this side too as well. So that's osteosarcoma. Alright, our next case, what's this? Also, identify what bone is this. So we can see, I'll give you a clue, this is a femur. Right, and this is our tibia, and this is our fibula. Okay, so what bone is it? What cancer is this? This is a giant cell bone tumor. Why? So it's towards the epiphysis, the end of the bone, and there's a nice clear outline there, so that's where the excessive osteoclast activity has been. Okay, what's this thing? This is kind of harder to look at. Sorry, I'm tired and not making sense, but anyways, and it's hot. It's very, very hot. So, what are we looking at here? Okay. So here you have your normal trabecular bone. This is kind of your normal strong bone. And then here you have it's called woven bone. It's essentially not very strong. And this occurs when you have new bone growth. You can see here, look, this is the end of your normal bone. This is your periosteum. And just by the fact I'm saying periosteum should give you a clue. But it should normally kind of end here. So your bone should end here, where you can kind of see a rough outline. All this woven bone has been added on, pushing out the periosteum all the way here. And this, you can see this, when you scan this will cause that sunburst appearance, this kind of like wispiness. So your wispiness is not here, this is your standard bone, but you can see all these kind of wispy lines. So this is an osteosarcoma. Okay, what's this one? Okay, So this is a chondrosarcoma. So this is the end of the bone. And remember, at the end of the bone, beyond the growth plate, we have our cartilage. And this cartilage and chondrosarcoma would normally like kind of be here. This is our spongy bone here. And the cartilage is growing all the way out. So this shouldn't, all this blob here shouldn't be here. Your bone should kind of end here. Instead, your cartilage has grown out and kind of invaded the surrounding tissue. All right, this next bit, there's 3 slides and there's 3 radiographs. That's it. So match them up. All right, I'll give you 10 seconds and pause it. All right, let's start with the histology. So we'll start with this guy. What can we see here? We can see this massive cell here. We can see one here. We can see one here. We can see one here. And within this massive cell, look how many nuclei there are. So it's a pretty giant cell. So that should tell you that's a giant cell bone tumor. That's our giveaway. What's this one? Well, we can see here a lot of pink, but there's also a lot of empty space here. So how do we tell the difference? Okay, so let's see. This one, there's going to be a lot of pink, and it's kind of surrounded by normal kind of bone. So this is your normal bone, but then there's all this extra osteoid here. So the pink is osteoid. This is excess osteoblast activity, osteosarcoma. Hopefully you can tell the difference between this one. It's kind of hard to explain, but here you can see like that's pleomorphic. That's like crazy, whatever this is, this nucleus. And then these here, this is a lacunae, and you can kind of tell the difference, right? There's not really any lacunae here, but there's lacunae here. So this is all lacunae with osteocytes in them. So this is our cartilage, and this here is our cartilage matrix. The reason that these two can be confusing is because you have a lot of empty space in both of them, but here you kind of have the obvious lacunae, and here you have this pattern of osteoid being kind of laid out all over the place. So here, this is a chondrosarcoma because of cartilage. Okay, right, now let's match up the X-rays. We can start off with this guy here. So this is obviously your foot, and what are we seeing? We're seeing something towards the end of the bone. We're seeing a nice, you could draw a really nice circle around that. So that is our giant cell bone tumor, so that goes there. Our next thing is, I'm not sure which is the order they're going to move in, but anyways, let's have a look at this. So here's your bone, and it normally ends here. Wait a minute, you can see all this extra stuff here, and this is the same person, but a sagittal view. You can see their bone, and then suddenly all this here. You can see that kind of fuzziness here, and the periosteo elevation. So that would be your osteosarcoma. And then finally, let's have a look at this guy. So you can see here, there's something here, and within the bone, there's no like Codman's triangle. The periosteum is actually quite nice and straight, right? And not elevated. There's no big cyst, there's this kind of thing here, but you can see all around here and all here, this should all be white, but instead it's kind of, there's various bits of black, and so this gives you the moth-eaten or the popcorn appearance of chondrosarcoma.